G'day there guys, it's your Aussie Hubby Markee, back at it again with another r/EntitledParents video. Now if you love me like I love you, then you know what to do. I want you to mosey on over to that old like button and tackle it like Crocodile Dundee. Maybe even chuck an Aussie flag down in the comments. Now with that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and get ready for some bloody Karens. Now our first post is by user FutureButterscotch9, titled, "Where did you learn to speak English?" England? So, this story took place 5 months ago, so it won't exactly be word for word, but I've remembered enough of the event to recite it. Blah blah blah, you've all heard it before. So, my stepmom is British, Welsh to be exact. For those who don't know, Wales is this little hump west of England and north of Cornwall. It's a beautiful place known for sheep, alcohol, and mistakes involving sheep and alcohol. My stepmom is ethnically Welsh, but raised in England. Despite this, my Nain and Taid, English for grandma and grandma, insisted on her and her brother learning Welsh to preserve their heritage. The Welsh are a proud people, and so they wanted to ensure their children were as immersed as they could be. So she grew up bilingual, went to uni, got a job working from a certain tech giant, and moved to the US to help train their staff. A few years later, she met my dad and joined the family. At the time, I was still getting over my mum, so her presence was less than welcome. Despite this, my stepmom never pushed me or tried to buy her way in. She gave me the room I needed to grieve, and when I was ready, showered me with enough affection to make up for the lost time. She has my eternal love and respect for it, and has become my second mother. Now, we live in a large town in the Midwest, being west of the seaboard but east of the Mississippi. So while most people are open to outsiders, there's the usual few who just want to ruin everything. Around Christmas time, I was visiting home from college with my girlfriend Charlie, whose awesomeness has been detailed in another post, enjoying some quality girls' time with my stepmom. We were in the mall, searching for some place that sold plastic modeling glue for my dad. He's really into Warhammer. During this time, my stepmom is on the phone with her brother, who still lives in the UK, catching up and sharing some laughs. They were speaking Welsh to each other, which happened to offend a woman who has since earned the title of Karen. We were standing in front of the mall map, trying to find the hobby store, when I heard a loud scoff from behind us. I turned to see a woman dressed in a rather nice-looking business suit, but corralling her kids away like they'd just encountered a streaker. Now I was ready to let it go, but Charlie can get very defensive of people she likes, so she ended up calling her out. "Something offend you, ma'am?" She seemed to ponder her next move before responding with that oh-so-stupid phrase. "You're in America. When you're here, you speak English, not Muslim. My kids don't need to hear that." Now, I've met some pretty stupid people in my life, even dated one, but never ever have I heard of someone confusing Welsh for Arabic, which is what I assumed she meant. They're two very different languages from two very different cultures. The only similarities between them is how little I understand them. However, for someone to be so offended by someone speaking another language, they probably also didn't immerse themselves too much in other cultures. To her, the world began in New York and ended in Los Angeles. It was at this point that my stepmom hung up. "Now, I know that Americans get a bad rap and all," she said, in an obviously British accent, "but it doesn't help when you actively conform to the stereotype." "Oh my god," Karen said with righteous indignation, "your accent is awful. Where did you even learn to speak English?" My stepmom held the most deadpan expression she could. "England." I swear I could smell the smoke coming from the flaming mess inside Karen's skull. She looked at Charlie and I, a pair of shockingly Caucasian college brats, and then my stepmom, our even paler chaperone, took a moment to process what she was doing, and then walked away, dragging a group of embarrassed-looking tweens with her. I have to give her credit, at least she knew when to quit. My stepmom chuckled, muttered an offensive-sounding Welsh phrase, and then helped us scan the map for the hobby shop. The rest of the day went well, and we had a funny story to tell my dad when we got back. To all my bigots out there who got offended when someone speaks another language, get over yourselves. The world doesn't revolve around you. To all my bilingual friends out there who speak their native tongues, good for you. It's important to keep your culture alive. And to Karen, Next time you try to accost someone for speaking something other than English, at least get the right continent. Much love, Future Butterscotch 9. It's probably all that sheep and alcohol in the system that's messing their brains up there, isn't it, guys? I kid. Now, our next post is by Lolo the Lily. Titled, "My kids are gonna sit right here and eat because it is their right. No one can tell them what to do." Went into the supermarket to get food for the month. A ton of people were hanging outside, including 6 miserable-looking kids lined up eating chips on the sidewalk. Mum was screaming her head off down her phone. "My kids are gonna sit right here and eat because it is their right. No one can tell them what to do." As I went in, I heard one girl say, "Can we go now? This sucks." And Karen screamed at her to shut up. Parents in general are acting like children over this virus, and it's pathetic. I know we only just now got our first cases, but come on, this time in 2 weeks there will be a ton more. Bet. Yeah, I bet. Alrighty, and our next post is by Dream Arch, titled, "Why would you put them outside if they weren't for us to take?" Now, this story is from a couple of months ago, and sadly, instead of one entitled parent, it involves many, many entitled parents. Every year, my family volunteers at a big fall fair with rides, games, crafts, and a whole lot of locally grown food. This year, some of the local farmers donated a bunch of pumpkins to the fair so they could create this beautiful pumpkin display. Less than an hour after the fair opened for the day, and the pumpkin display was a mess. Many parents, the poor lost souls, had mistaken the pumpkin display for a playground. They stood to the side and chatted as though they were at the park, while their children made a mess of the display, climbing the pumpkins, throwing the pumpkins, kicking the pumpkins, smashing the pumpkins. We quickly evacuated the families. This caused the children to complain, which resulted in their parents giving us stink eye for ruining their day. We tried to reassemble the display as much as we could, and put up a sign right in front of it that said not to touch the pumpkins. Not long later, we returned to the display only to find that the sign has been uprooted and tossed to the side, and the display was destroyed again. There were broken pumpkins everywhere. There were also families who decided to go pumpkin picking with their children in the display, happily choosing out their favorite pumpkins and carrying them off. We tried to stop the parents, told them the pumpkins weren't for taking home. Many of the parents would claim, "But my son really likes this pumpkin, and why would you put them outside if they weren't for us to take?" We explained to the parents that there were many stalls at the fair where farmers were selling some pumpkins, but the replies mostly complaining about how they would have to pay for those pumpkins. There was even one lady who just looked at us and kept walking as we tried to stop her. Once again, we cleared out the people, and this time shut down the display. This display of roughly 30 pumpkins had been reduced to 6 that were still intact, all before noon. I just don't understand that story. How? What's wrong with people? Are you like mentally detached from the world? Why do you look at a pumpkin display and you're like, you know what? Smash. I'm gonna smash these pumpkins. I hate them. It's like that bag of rice you see at the store. You walk past, you just gotta slap it. You can't walk past it without slapping. That's these people. Can't walk past the pumpkin display without smashing it. Rightio, and our next post is by user JamesJoseph999, titled, she's my sister? Hey, so I was browsing this sub and remembered something that happened a few years ago. I was 15 to 16 years old, and I liked this girl in my class. I went up to her and asked if she wanted to see a movie. She said yes. So that weekend we went to see some crap movie that I forgot, and later went to get lunch at this sandwich joint, whose owners I was friend of, where this scene happened. I don't remember exactly what she said, but I got the gist of it. Entitled Mother walks up to us talking with a crying baby in arm, says, "What's wrong with this generation?" Do you want to specify? Glady, I hate seeing this everywhere I go. Young people like yourselves getting into relationships. It is so disappointing. Entitled Mother looking at the girl says, "Trust me, honey, men are pigs. My man left me to deal with 3 kids all on my own. You don't know what you're getting yourself into. Believe me, darling, you're too young to understand the world. You're just going through a phase. What will your parents think of this?" Both our parents were completely aware and fine with what we were doing. So she says, I don't want my kids to grow up in this sinful environment. Please take your stuff somewhere else, darling. I've had enough of her crap by this point. We had the whole store's attention, like 10 people. I'm sorry to interrupt, ma'am, but she's my sister. We're fraternal twins. We're waiting for our parents. The owner was losing his crap behind the counter. It seemed like he was laughing at the woman. Oh, I didn't realize. Everyone at the store had a sweeping grin on their faces, and the woman awkwardly walked to her car and drove away. The girl says to me, wonder why her man left her. I think my date liked that, because now we were engaged and I planned to propose to her by the end of this whole COVID thing. Anyways, don't get in the way of someone's day because you don't like what you see. Very good message, that one. Alright, and our next post is by Millie2610, titled, If You're Not Straight, Say Goodbye to Family Support. So ever since I was little, I had already decided I wouldn't have kids, even if the reason changed from time to time. When I was younger, it was because I had a little brother, and I really hated him, so I didn't want to risk having a child just like him to take care of. As I got older, it started to be about money and comfort. Having a baby means you have to carry it for 9 months, and then go through excruciating pain in order to get it out. Then the said baby proceeds to suck money, time, and patience from you for at least 18 years, probably more. No matter what argument I used, all my relatives kept saying that I was too young to decide that I would change my mind in the future, etc., etc. In my teenage years, I realized that I was lesbian, and recently, me and my girlfriend started to consider adopting a kid in the future for the sole purpose of raising them better than our parents raised us. But we haven't decided anything yet. I realized I was lesbian by 14, and started dating a girl at high school when I was 16. Not the one that I'm currently dating, we broke up after a while, but we're still friends to this day. The problem was, my mum and her part of the family were really religious, as they're Jehovah's Witnesses. My dad is atheist, and his part of the family, while still religious, there is accepting of gay people. But my mum's family is way bigger and more present in my life. As I got older, relatives started bugging me about if I was dating someone. It was really awkward because technically yes I was, but I couldn't say that, so I always answered no. When I turned 18, my auntie, she was always annoying, even when I was a kid, started setting up dates for me with all the guys around my age at church. I obviously didn't want to go, but my mum forced me to, saying, she's just trying to help you, you should go even if it's just to make her happy. So I ended up suffering through 3 different extremely awkward dinners with 3 guys I didn't know, and they looked just as awkward as me. I guess she ran out of young adults to throw at me, so she left me alone besides the usual, so are you dating someone? And the really annoying suggestive looks every time I say no. 3 months ago, I'm 23 now, I got caught with my current girlfriend. I broke up with the first one in the first year of college. We were at a party and she had too many drinks, so I drove her home and gave her a goodbye kiss when I dropped her off. It was still late afternoon, so it wasn't dark yet. So apparently, a random old lady that was close friends with my grandmother saw us kissing and told my grandmother. Because apparently old religious people have nothing better to do. That's a fact. I had stopped believing in God when I was 12, story for another post, and told my mum when I was 14. She was really upset and mad at me after that, but luckily she didn't tell any of my relatives, probably because she didn't want to deal with the drama that would follow. So the follow-up to the reveal was a wave of relatives worried about me. Jehovah's Witnesses have this thing on how people can change. They basically think being gay is a choice, and trying to bring me back to God and stuff. And then came the auntie I mentioned earlier. She started with the same arguments as everyone else, but then she came in with, but if you only date girls, you'll never have any kids. Already tired of all this drama, I argued back that I didn't even want kids, and if I decided to have one in the future, I could always adopt or resort to artificial insemination. She kept bugging me for days with the same arguments, about how I was young and naive and would eventually change my mind, and how children are a gift from God for every woman on earth, that my life would never be complete without one, how a homosexual marriage would never bring me true happiness, and how I would die sad and alone because I didn't have any kids to take care of me when I turned old. Yes, apparently someone said that, that's disgusting. After a few days of this, she gave me an ultimatum, not the movie. If I didn't give up on my homosexual relationship, she would tell the church about it. Jehovah's Witnesses have this thing. If you're willing to commit a sin and don't show any remorse, you're basically kicked out of the church. That wouldn't be so bad, but after being disassociated, every member of the church is instructed to avoid you. Basically not talk to you and not give any support until you took shame on your actions and apologized. Which would mean half of my family was going to pretend I didn't even exist. I was in the middle of college, so I still lived with my parents. Luckily, disassociation doesn't include kicking your child out, but I didn't want to be trapped in an environment where two people, my mum and my brother, would pretend I didn't exist, so I decided to move out. I live in Brazil. Here, public colleges are actually good, at least for your resume. Can't say the same about the structure, so paying for it wasn't a problem. When I explained my plan to my girlfriend, she quickly pulled some strings and managed to recommend me a small apartment near my college that I could rent without selling an organ. But that still meant I was going to have to find a job, and considering we're in the middle of the coronavirus outbreak, that could take forever. And then, to my surprise, my dad came in when I was talking with my girlfriend through video chat. We talked for a long time, and long history short, he wasn't exactly happy about my relationship, but it was less because it was with a girl, and more because I never told him, and that as long as it was making me happy, he would support me. I showed him the apartment I was planning on getting, and he said that he would pay the rent for me for the rest of my college years. He then repeated what he used to tell me when I was a teenager. As long as it's something for your education and future, I'll pay for it. I don't think I need to describe how happy and relieved that made me. We now talk with each other daily, and I started contacting his side of the family through video chat about my situation. They also support me, and one of my cousins said she would help me with furniture and stuff. I'm currently trapped in my house due to the quarantine, while I ignored several calls from people from church. But once this is all over, I finally will be able to cut some people out of my life and never look back. Aw, that's a really good ending. I'm really happy for that OP, and I hope everything works out well for them. Alright, now our next post is by user Baked Potato, entitled Father Ground's Girlfriend because she started her period at church. So, this is my third story about my girlfriend's crazy ass father. It's short but pretty screwed up. My girlfriend was at church and started her period during church. She started getting cramps and the wonderful such. Girlfriend turned to entitled father and tells him she started her period, and she asked her stepmom for feminine supplies. Entitled father got all up on her about, why didn't you prepare, and why don't I have feminine supplies on her? Well, it came earlier than I expected and I wasn't prepared. Stepmom said she didn't have anything. They suggest that she should put toilet paper off. Oh, yuck. They said they weren't going to leave because they were ushering. Girlfriend said, okay, I'll sit and bleed. Entitled father got furious and got everyone out to leave. Entitled father proceeds to throw a temper tantrum and taking his anger on her in the car. He then grounded her for a month and continued to scream and yell at the girlfriend until she started crying. Sorry about the way I wrote this. I was typing what she told me. Jesus, it's not like she had a choice to turn her period on and off. What's wrong with this guy? He knows this. He's just being an asshole. Alright, and our next post is by Just Ting Things. Entitled Mother Tried to Hoard Costco Toilet Paper and Gets Just Desserts. Longtime fan of this sub, but was just too busy to post until now. Events happened during the height of the crazed toilet paper famine around 2 weeks after Chinese New Year's. My mum, and I were going to get supplies, only to find that the toilet paper section had been picked clean. Not a big deal, we didn't have high hopes anyway. We wandered over to the checkpoint when we suddenly spotted Entitled Mother. Entitled Mother and her son have two shopping carts, absolutely filled with toilet paper. One hand pushing the cart and the other one holding the iPhone, gossiping away. Now, it is important to mention that my mother is usually an anxious, quiet woman. Living as Chinese-speaking immigrants in a white American neighborhood, she has gotten even more nervous due to the coronavirus. However, realizing that the woman is also jabbering on the phone in Chinese, her face lights up. Sorry for the rough translations. My mother in Chinese says, "Hello miss, I wish you a happy New Year's. It's so nice to see you in our community. I'm sure you didn't get a chance to see, but there is one toilet paper package per customer. Easy mistake, but let us band together to work hard for our community. We must take care of each other." Entitled mother, not bothering to put down the phone, just basically yells, "Huh? You're talking to me? Mind your own business, beer. If you're too stupid to take advantage, don't whine. Don't pretend we're friends just because you're too fat to waddle your own way over to the toilet paper aisle." Entitled mother proceeds to gently shove our cart with hers and cut in front of us in line. At this point, my mum is flushed with embarrassment and quietly shuffles into the long checkout line. Approximately 45 minutes later, entitled mother reaches checkout. The overworked clerk just sighs. "Ma'am, it's a 2 per people rule. I'm afraid I'm gonna have to ask you to put all of them back and get to the back of the line." "What? Says who? There aren't signs anywhere. No one says anything. If you have a rule, tell people. Don't just make it up and cheat your paying customers." Clerk just sighs and begins to take her carts away, much to entitled mother's squawking. He starts waving the customers in line over to scavenge from the pile. My mum shuffles over a bit, and she looks entitled mother dead in the eye, and without blinking, plucks the shiniest toilet paper roll out of the bunch. In a stroke of either pettiness or awkward politeness, my mother says a common Chinese New Year phrase, "May peace bring wealth to you." We quickly scuttle away from entitled mother's wrath with her prized toilet paper. To this day, my mum denies any sort of pettiness sentiment and simply states that she was being polite to a neighbor. I want that mum. How do I get a mum like that? That's amazing. Alright, and our next post is by user The Shy Nerd, titled, "Entitled Mother Tries to Take My Driver's License." EM's entitled mother, me is me, mum is my mum, GE is the gas station employee. So, I'm at a stage where I am allowed to drive. I have a license that allows me to do so as long as I have a parent in the car with me. A few days ago, my mother and I went to the store. After that, we went to go get gas. As I was standing in line to pay, a middle-aged woman was standing in front of me. I was looking out the window, but I could see her repeatedly glancing back at me. EM's like, "Did you drive here?" And I'm like, "Yeah. You don't really seem old enough to drive yet." "Well, I am, I promise." The entitled mother then left the gas station. I paid for gas and went outside. Entitled mother was waiting. "Show me your driver's license or I'm calling the police." "Okay, let me go get it." At this point, I just needed to get this lady off my back. I pulled out my license and showed it to the entitled mother. "That is obviously fake." "No, it isn't. It's a learner's license. There is no such thing." At this point, the GE came out and is like, "Is everything alright? This girl is driving with a fake license. Can I see?" So I hand in the license. "Ma'am, this is real." "Let me see that." The entitled mother takes the license and begins to walk away. "I'm giving this to my son. He deserves it more." My mum stops her and gets the license back. The entitled mother tried again to grab it, but she missed. My mum pulled out her phone and said she was going to call the police. Entitled mother left, presumably without buying her gas. What's wrong with people? Seriously? Alrighty folks, and our last post is by user Couldn't Be Any Cornier. Haha, titled, "Entitled mother spent an hour shopping while her child screamed the entire time, then tried to exchange clothes from over a year ago to pay for the clothes she picked out that day." Strap in, y'all. This is my favorite story to share from my time in retail. This lady was absolutely bonkers. It's hella long, but worth the read in my opinion. So this happened a few years ago when I was working part-time at a clothing outlet. Let's just say that this company sells higher-end clothing and caters almost exclusively to Karens. My life was hell for those 2 years. God bless those who work there full-time. You are the real heroes. Our cast are me, yours truly, EM, the lady who has clearly never interacted with another human being, EK, her screaming 1-year-old, and CO, my poor co-worker. Let me start by saying that this was a Saturday shift in a crowded shopping mall, and I was working a double to cover for a co-worker. I had recently been promoted to shift lead, so I was the manager on duty that day, and was closing. Fast forward to the end of the day. The day was insane, and by the end of it, both my coworker and I were exhausted. We were tidying up the store and taking care of all the go-backs when I heard the door open. It was 8:53, we close at 9. Enter entitled mother and entitled kid. Typically, if we have customers come in that late, it's to grab a gift card or something. We do have the occasional shopper that comes right before close and stays a while, but they are typically fairly quick when they realize that they are the only ones there holding us up. Not tonight. The first thing I notice is that entitled kid is screaming. Like, it sounds like someone is ripping off his arms level screams. I walk up to greet the entitled mother over the sounds of her screaming offspring. I say, "Good evening, ma'am. Is there something that I can help you find today?" "No thanks, just browsing." The worst answer. "Okay, well, let me know if you need help with anything before I close the dressing rooms." My little way of insinuating that it's late and I want to go home. "Well, I'll definitely need a dressing room. Can you go ahead and start one for me?" Me, yelling at this point over the sound of the entitled kid screaming, "Sure thing! Oh, sorry about him, he's had a long day." Haven't we all, mate? So, as I walk away, I notice that entitled mother has a trash bag full of clothes underneath the stroller that is carting around her screaming toddler. Odd, but whatever. Maybe she has a Goodwill donation? For the next hour and a half, this woman tries on every article of clothing in the store. And as per corporate policy, we can't rush guests as they shop for as long as they come in before close. We tried everything, turning off the music, sweeping the floor, closing the 2 out of 3 registers, etc. Pretty much all the indicators that we are closed and to get the F out. And yet she stayed. And her kid screamed for an hour of it before he fell asleep. At around 10:30 she is ready to check out. I have co-workers start to ring her up so I can get closing started in the back and get the heck out of there. I'm in the stockroom when I hear the screams, trademark. I rush out and I find this lady screaming, and co-worker, who is one of the nicest people I've ever known, is crying at this point. What seems to be the problem? Anything I can help with? Yes, you can fire this idiot because she's treating me like absolute garbage. I don't think corporate will be very happy to hear how their employees are treating paying customers. Co-worker looks at me with tear-filled eyes. I say, "Co-worker, will you go to the back and finish the online orders for me? I'll take care of entitled mother." "Okay, ma'am. What can I help you with?" "Well, I was trying to get these clothes returned so I can put the credit towards my purchase." Entitled mother then takes the full garbage bag of clothes and dumps it out in front of me. Technically, the clothes inside of the bag were all from the store where I worked. However, they were all a year older or more, clearly well worn and no tags. "Ma'am, I'm so sorry, but you cannot return these." "What? Why not?" "Well, for one, they don't have any tags, you don't have a receipt, and they have clearly been washed and worn by you for quite some time. Returns are typically recent purchases that don't quite fit." "Well, these don't fit me anymore, so I would like to return them," said in a very condescending tone, of course. "Look, our return policy is 30 days, and it can't be washed, and you need a tag or receipt. Can't you just give me store credit?" "No, I cannot. You can try resale shops if you want to, but we aren't a thrift store. These pieces aren't even in production anymore." "I'm not an idiot. I know these clothes are from a while ago because I'm the one who bought them. They don't fit me anymore because I was busy creating human life, and now I need new clothes." She gestures to her poor exhausted child, who was at this point woken up and began to scream again. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but I still can't accept these as returns. Can I help you purchase the clothes you picked out today?" "Like hell you can. I have had a long day and deserve this. I can't afford to buy these without returning my old clothes." "Then I don't know what I can do for you." "You can get me your manager." So full of satisfaction I say, "I'm the manager on the floor tonight." "Well then you are so screwed. I'm calling corporate to report you and company." "Well, here's their number. Call centers opens tomorrow at 7 a.m. Entitled mother's mouth dropped. Pretty sure she didn't expect me to be so cavalier about getting reported, but I did not give a single F at this point. She was quiet for a moment and took a deep breath and asked if I could help her bag up her old clothes to take with her so she could give her screaming child a snack. I was pretty shocked at the abrupt mood change, but whatever. I'm exhausted and I want to leave so bad. I start bagging up her old clothes, which she reached down to grab her kid's snack. As I'm putting the clothes in the bag, she reaches over the counter, grabs the clothes she was going to purchase, and then runs towards the door. I just stand there because it's against our policy to stop people from shoplifting anyway, and I've locked the doors to prevent other people from coming in. She gets to the doors and violently yanks the handle back and forth, trying to open them. I calmly walk over. "Let me out!" "Sure thing." I hold out my hand for the clothes. She glares at me, then wisely decides it's not worth it. She shoves the clothes at me and turns away, muttering obscenities at me as she does. I unlock the door and she leaves. As if that counter wasn't crazy enough, she actually called corporate to complain after literally trying to shoplift from our store. What a wild ride. Alright guys, that's the end of our episode today. If you enjoyed this one, tell me what you thought about it down in the comments below. I do love to hear your opinions. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to my mate, Storyhawk. He's just started his YouTube channel and I'd love for you to help him get it off the ground. So yeah, tell me what you thought, subscribe to him, click on the link on the screen, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!